warmly welcome to everyone to this webinar. I give words now to the VTT.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Renne Terguev from VTT speaking about Forestry TEP, and I will first share the screen to get going. So you should now see the agenda. We have reserved 90 minutes. I would first go through basic introduction and what Forestry TEP means in this Innovation Challenge context. Then we will go to the demonstration of the platform general features, like overall how the platform works. And after that, we will see how in which different ways you can work with data on the platform, access the data that is there, upload new data, etc. Then from there, we'll carry on up to, I would say, the key topic of how to develop your own processing service on the platform, and then how to possibly interface to that service or other FTEP features, FTEP functions from a solution that you might have developed elsewhere. You can jump in if you like with the questions, but if there's too many, then please reserve it to the end. So we'll have some time at the end as well for questions and answers. So I'm joined today by my colleagues Jukka Miettinen and Lauri Seitsonen, and we'll be sharing turns through the session to introduce the various parts of the training. I suppose you may have already attended the pre-hack webinar 2 days ago. So there's a few slides that are the same from there. I will carry on through these quickly, just to recap. So Forestry TEP, it is an online solution to make forest analysis based on satellite data. We at VTT operate it. We offer it to users via subscriptions. Originally, the platform was developed in a European Space Agency project, and we aim to grow the platform with any third parties who would like to offer their services on the platform as well. So the platform has access to various satellite data sources, ability to upload new data. It has the processing capabilities, including parallel processing option. It has a few ready-made data processing services. Some of them are open source so that you can use them to develop your own services. And there's an online environment for that. There's other sharing features and such that you can use to help collaboration on the platform and the API interfaces. The platform is hosted on the so-called DIAS environment, which specifically is GeoDIAS. It provides us the satellite data and the computing infrastructure, and we hope to develop this third layer with third-party services. The platform website is on the left. You can visit it, and the actual platform after you have user account, which are managed by ESA, then the actual platform is how it looks like on the right. And in this Innovation Challenge context, this is made available to the participants as an optional tool, and it really is an optional. If you see the benefit, you're free to use it to develop your whatever it is, app, demo, so forth. Particularly, it could be useful when satellite data is involved in your solution. Potentially, it could be used with other sort of processing as well. Okay, this is an old note that the introductory training will be provided. Here we are, and we will be providing user support to you. You can now already sign up for a free use account, trial account, via the ESA authentication system. Teams that get approved for the actual innovation challenge will then also receive 1 month free of charge access to FTEP. And later on, those solutions that will be rewarded in the challenge, they will be also supported after the hackathon to help the solutions stay in good health and accessible. We have ready-made processing services for vegetation indices, etc. Also some supporting processing services to help with dealing the source satellite data. And there's interactive applications that you can use via the browser as well. Many of these services are available on the platform as open source, which gives you the chance to take a copy of the code and use it, or parts of it, and use it in your own solution, or simply just to learn how the system works. Basically, all of the Sentinel-1 radar data and Sentinel-2 optical data is directly available on the platform, and there's mechanism for Sentinel-2 level 2A data as well, which requires a separate computation, but that can be done via the interface as well. Sentinel-3, in case it's useful, is there as well, and the Landsats 578 that could help to make maybe some long-term analysis. The so-called ISA archive of those is there. There's a number of other data sources as well that can be accessed in a specific manner that will be introduced later today. The service development environment, some knowledge of Docker and Linux will be helpful, but you will survive with little knowledge as well, because there's good templates available if you start creating your own processing service. If you're familiar with, for example, Python, you can use that for your actual implementation. Any other libraries, software libraries, such as GDAL, that could be useful. They can be used, and there's some examples available how to do that. The FTEP website has more of this, of course, as support. Tell about the API use. The Python library will probably be most convenient, but you can then think what could be most useful in your case. And just to enable some thinking about how to use FTEP, some usage scenarios. So I would say that in all cases it's beneficial to develop your own processing service, unless you are simply requesting, for example, a simple vegetation index. There's several that can be produced directly with the vegetation indices tool on the platform, not just NDVI, but others as well. If you just require NDVI, like any vegetation index output, then maybe you didn't need to create your own processing service. But in most cases, I would expect that to be the starting point. When you have that, you can use it privately to generate some output that will be part of your solution or demo. You can download the output, and that would be the end of the FTEP use for you. You can, and as another option, you could offer your developed service on the platform to other users of FTEP. That does not mean directly like full public access, but that is an option also for you. If you think you have developed a commercially viable service, you could discuss with us how that could be made available in a way that benefits all parties. That would mean that you would document and publish the service. Of course, you're welcome to simply publish it as is, if it does a meaningful thing. The third option, which I would suppose that could be most viable in many cases is that you develop a service on the platform, but your actual innovation challenge solution is somewhere else. It might be an app, it might be some sort of web thing, whatever. That thing that you have created somewhere that could access your processing service on the FTP via the FTP API. It could be used to execute the service and to retrieve the output. The benefit of all of this is, of course, that satellite data is huge in nature, and particularly if you need to develop a scenario where you use multiple data or multiple time instances, etc., then it would be tough for you to
Now I can't hear.
Yes, I think we lost Ren. I wonder, is it a temporary thing or should we carry on?
Well, maybe he should
yeah.
sign in once again.
Yeah, okay, it seems that Renne really has now some technical problem.
No, he's back.
Renne, we lost you for a while.
You did?
About 1 minute, so please repeat any valuable information from the last minute.
Yeah, you said that the satellite data is huge in nature, and if you will use multiple data, and then we stopped we lost the connection.
Thank you. I know the reason. I got a call, and I accidentally I'm in the mobile phone network. I need to fix that too. Yeah, satellite data is huge in nature, and because of that, it could be useful to have the satellite data processing happening on the FTP, and your solution can access the processing service on FTP and retrieve the output, which is much smaller in size as part of your solution. That's basically what I was trying to say. There could be other scenarios that I didn't think about, but these that are the ones that came to my mind. And just another reminder at this point that the use of FTP is optional. It is
Now he's gone again.
I think he may have gotten another phone call.
No, obviously he has friends.
Yeah, let's wait. I think he probably comes back very soon now because he probably understood that the same thing happened. Yeah, there he is.
Yes. Okay. I got another call, and
yeah,
now I'm back to my home network. Now I'm back to my home network, and it will not be affected anymore by phone calls. Sorry. I guess we'll just carry on to the next slide. Maybe I got long enough before it cut out.
Well, may I just ask, did you mean that the FTP is also processing the data if you want to?
Exactly. FTP is where the data processing can happen. And the benefit is that the satellite data, such as Copernicus Sentinel data, is huge, and having another kind of solution to process that data would be complex for the participants, and therefore you could use the FTP API to connect to your processing service and retrieve the output. I'm getting a bit mixed up with regard to what I have already said and what not, but before I cut out, I suppose, I tried also to emphasize that all of this is optional. If this is beneficial, to you to achieve the goals of your innovation challenge idea, then that's great. But you can take whichever path you like. Okay. I suppose this is a third try for me to this slide. What next? You're welcome to try out the platform with the trial accounts right now if you like, or in the coming days or weeks. With any questions, you can reach us via Slack or via the FTEP support email address. Due to the winter holiday next week, we have slightly reduced user support, but regardless, you should be able to get hold on at least some of us during the week. Then another item, which is a bit outside of this actual innovation challenge context, that is that for any sort of research or pre-commercial use of ForestryTep, there is ESA support potentially available. It's always down to ESA specific decision, but it's via so-called network of resources funding. So we have subscription prices for ForestryTep, but you have an possibility to get free of charge access for your research need. And there's a link for more information about that. Now I'm through what I meant to say. Any questions further at this point? You can always provide ask later as well. I would hand over to Jukka.
Oh, there is one question, Renne. Rurik.
Okay.
Please.
Thank you.
Well, yes, I'm Rurik Alberg. I'm the mayor of the municipality of Mustasaari here in Finland. And obviously, I'm not a programmer, so maybe the questions are quite basic. I'm just asking about the FTEP. Is that like a platform using the data from for instance, the Copernicus program, and who is like owning FTEP? Is the data the same? You say that it's an API. Well, that I understand what it is, but can you just sort out what is owned by whom? Thank you.
Okay. The Copernicus data, it's publicly funded, huge European program. So that data is available, it's actually globally available free of charge and the sharing of the data is managed by the European Space Agency, ESA. But there's then services that make use of that data, make it more easily available, have some capabilities facilitating data analysis, etc. ForestryTep is one such service, and it is our service is ours. It's owned by VTT, and therefore for our work and our processing costs we have pricing, but it is based on free data. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks. Now, if there's no further at this point, no further questions, then can you, Jukka, take over, please?
Yes, thank you. So my name is Jukka Miettinen, and I'm also from the same remote sensing team in VTT as Renne. Let me share the screen. Yeah, I want to first show you a bit how the platform looks like, but let's start from the very beginning. So I will just briefly show you our website where you can find more information. So on the front page, you have various general information, but then you have more detailed description of the
kokouksessa, minkälainen asia?
Renne, you are muted. Yeah, so we have services, different services listed here, what is currently available on the website. Not all of these are available for all users, but as you can see, some of them are by agreement, meaning that they are licensed services. And yeah, then there is information on the subscriptions, but that doesn't apply to you in regards to this challenge in any way, then there is information on how you can get started, how to register and log in. So if you want to already start testing the website, it happens through this page with those instructions. And then there are some news information. And finally, by clicking this platform button, you will then end up here in the actual Forestry platform. And when you arrive, this is basically the view that you will see. On the top bar, you have these different interfaces, as we call them. We will go through those in a moment. On the right-hand side, you have very basic navigation buttons, zooming in and out and making polygon layers and this kind of very typical navigation tools. You can also use your mouse to scroll up and down on the map. But on the left-hand side, we have then the actual most important tools that most of the users use. And this main interface that we are now, it's called the Explorer interface. And if we first look at the possibilities or the ways to use this Explorer interface, we can see that on the left-hand side, we have a few buttons here, starting from the top, for example, the search buttons. We can search satellite data, reference data, FDEP products. We will come back to this actually a bit more on the data section, but I will just briefly show you, for example, if you are interested in looking for what kind of satellite data would be available in your interest area. Let's assume that we are somewhere near Vaasa, for example, and you can choose the different satellites. We have now here options. We have Sentinel-1, 2, 3, and Landsat data. These are the satellites that we can directly browse from the CREODIAS catalog. Again, there are more complex data sets, which we come back to in the data section, but let's just give you an example with this Sentinel-1 data, for example. Then you would need to choose the date range. Let's try last summer, for example. You can do it by either writing or choosing from the calendar like this. And yeah, I already chose this polygon area. It automatically registered it here. And let's try if there are any very cloud-free images available. And it seems that there is. In fact, let's zoom in a little to get a narrower focus. Okay, for example, in this area, it seems that we have 10 Sentinel-2 scenes from last summer with the cloud percentage less than 1. And if we want to see what do they look like, then we can click here on the info button and see this kind of what they call browse image or quick look image of the image. We can see that, for example, there is some clouds in that one and that as well. Let's see if we have, oh, this is beautiful. So, for example, this would be a perfect image to use for some analysis. And if we are interested in this particular image, we can then, for example, see the different types of services that are available here. Choose one particular service, for example, this vegetation indices service that Renne already mentioned. And this is very much what we are looking now. It's very much the user's view of the platform. So you now, if you want to start creating something here, you can think of these. What we are looking at now is what kind of service you would like to create, perhaps, for example. But in this case, for example, the creator of this service has as there are two options actually, but in this simple version you have to give only a few parameters, but then in the more advanced mode you can choose a bit more options. And for example, in this case, if we want to do some vegetation index analysis with this particular image that we just choose, we can drag it here. And if we had more images from somewhere else, could enable this parallel processing, which means that it would run those images at the same time. But we maybe do not want to do it now because this is faster if we run only the one. And then we can choose, in this case, from various selection of vegetation services. And if we are not interested in the entire image, we can again choose an interest area, for example, that kind. And by clicking this copy from map, it will automatically come there. And the only thing remaining is that we choose the output parameter, and then we can name this so that we can remember or find it easier later. And then we click the launch button. And in this, what started happening now is exactly what was asked a few minutes ago. So the actual processing. So now now we are only looking at one image, but like I said, we could, in theory, you could create a service that searches for, let's say, 10 or 100 Sentinel-2 images from this particular area and then does some operation for that. So now the processing is happening on the background. And while that's happening, as you noticed when I started it, opened this what is it called, this dash bar, or what is it called, where you can see the details of the job. So first of all, you can see that it is running now. You can see what input parameters you put there. You can see the logs, what is happening. So this is how you can monitor the progress of your services, and then you will get the outputs there. It's not done yet, so maybe at this moment I can show you some other features. For example, this data basket feature could become of use for you. What these are is that, again, like I just said, you may find several images that you are interested in using in some of your operations. So to control them, to better manage them, you can put them all in one data basket, and then you can directly drag that whole data basket, for example, into one of the services that you want. So if we want to create a new data basket, for example, we just click here, create new data basket, and let's call it again Kvarken1, for example. We could provide a description. And now we have a data basket for Kvarken1. And for example, if we go back to the earlier results that we saw, and we remember that this is a good scene, we can add it to this, our newly created Kvarken1 data basket by clicking here. And if we want to add this other scene as well, we can add that as well by just clicking it like that. And now we should have, if everything has worked correctly, in our data basket, we have now these two images. So now if we go to our data baskets, we should see oh yeah, but it's somewhere below. Yeah, Kvarken1 data basket, and the images there. Let's see what is happening with the job. Okay, it's finished. So now that this example job is finished, let's see if it has an output. So it has an output. Everything seems to be fine. And we can clear the map first because the easiest way to then see what has been created is by clicking this show the layer button here, and it zooms into the layer and we can see the simple NDVI layer that we have. We can, and now that we have created this, we could then use this as an input to another service, or you could use it as an input to service that you have created, or you can download it to your own system and use it further there. And as you can see, this is a very basic visualization here. So if you want to work or examine this further or work with it further, there is a way to do it within Forestry TEP, for example, in this QGIS service. You all probably know QGIS. So when you click the QGIS service, it opens again into this workspace where you have to enter the parameters. And in this case, we could just drag the output file into the input and QGIS demo. And we start the service. And then what happens is that in the background, it starts preparing the QGIS. And so there is usually a few minutes, sorry, a few seconds, hopefully only a few seconds gap before there is an arrow appearing in the job. And by the way, in the meanwhile, I can show you, well, now it actually, no, it didn't appear. Yeah, so I can show you what these other buttons here mean on the website. So you can, oh, sorry, on the job description. So you can easily see the information, whose job this is, and what is the status and when it started. And then you can share the job with within your group. We will very soon go to the other issues. I can show you how to create groups, or you can, this is a very useful button actually, you can rerun the same job. So if you know that okay, I want that was a good job, but I want to try it with another parameter, so you would just click this and it would open it again in this workspace, and you could change whatever parameter you want. And then you can of course terminate it or open it in the manage and share. I will show you that soon. Anyway, in the meanwhile, the arrow has appeared. It took surprisingly long this time. I don't know why, but then when you click the arrow, it will open. There is some warnings, but you can ignore those. And it will open the file in the QGIS. And this works exactly as any QGIS installation in your own desktop. So those who are familiar with using this, you can use this option. So here then you could work with this file. For example, we can make it a bit more beautiful. Let's try something like that to give it a bit of color. So we can play with it and we can do whatever analysis we want. And then an important information is to save what you have done here, because you need to save it here so that you can use it the next time. And the way to save it is that there you can find an output directory and you can save it there. for example, like that. Like that. And then when you are done with your work, you can just close this button, and you have to terminate also the job from here, because otherwise it keeps running until the time limit that was set. And this is important for the fact that only after you have terminated it, then the outputs of that job, in this case your QGIS session, will appear here in the outputs file. So now you have the QGIS file here. Good. Let's have a, yeah, maybe these were the basic things I wanted to show from this Explorer view, but let's have a brief look also on the other views. We can maybe end to the file suite. So let's start from the other end. Help desk button will open a link to the same this support page on the website, so you can find information from there. My account, you can find some information on your account. Admin, I won't show you because it's sensitive information. You will not have access to that. This may be important for you, like I said, this manage and share button, if you start developing something within FTEP, because here you can create groups, for example, that you can then later share your services that you have created with, so that the whole group can work on the same service development, for example. And it's very easy to create a new group. You just create like this, and again you could give a description, but you don't have to. And now I'm the only member in the group for now, but by clicking this add users, you can then add if you know your friend's email address. And the same way it works for, I mean, this is the same principle for the others. So you could create projects here, or data basket. You can manage your data baskets. You can delete your data baskets, for example. And so we could, for example, or we could share this data basket that I just created. And yes, and there are also this files view, but don't have a look at this now, because we have a dedicated files interface, which is the most convenient place to manage your files. So here you can actually see all the files that you are allowed to access, and you can choose by file type, or you can search files, but you can choose by file type, external products, and the output products or reference data. Now, let me ask Renne, did I forget something from the basic introduction that we agreed? I don't have the list now, so this would be a logical place to move on to the data handling, actually.
This is exactly a good point. Thanks, Jukka.
Yeah, good. So let's move on move on to the data handling. So let's go for a minute. Let's go back to the Explorer Explorer view, and back to the search function. So if a user is interested in using some data in the services, they generally have to find that either they have to know the exact link to that, or the name and location of that file, or they have to find it through this search button. And here, as you remember, we had 3 different types of file sets. The first set, what is called satellite, this is the data that is automatically available for these searches from CreaDIAS. It's the 4 or 5 different types of satellites that we had there. Then we have reference data, and this, by reference data, we mean all the data sets that have been uploaded by the user. It can be basically any kind of file, as long as then the service that uses it understands what kind of file it is. But typically, these might be some images, some image data, or some plot field data, for example, for reference data and so on. And then we have the output products. So if we go back to the files view, we can then see that we have the same selection here. Basically, we have the, okay, we don't have the satellite data here, but we have the reference data and the output products. And if we want to upload some new data that is useful for us, it's easiest by using this this upload function. I have prepared a very small image file here, for example, on the desktop, and I can just drag it here and drop it into the box. And in this case, because it's TIFF file, it automatically detects the geometry. And the important thing for this is that then if we search by areas, it knows that in this, whatever area it is, in this particular area, there is this kind of file. As you can see, there are other file types listed, but also, like I said, you can actually upload any kind of file there, as long as then the service that will use it understands it. And the upload just happens by clicking here. And in this case, it was successful. So let's see if we can, I don't even remember how it was called, but let's see if we can see it like this very easily. Now I have so much data here. What is it called? Example NDVI. So we can then search for it. And there it is. And now we can see then information about it. And again, we could share it with the group, for example. And what is convenient here is that, for example, now we have the example NDVI, like I said, the link here, so we can copy this to workflow. And if we want to then use that, whatever, or check what file we have uploaded, we can go to the Explorer view and again go to the services and choose the QGIS, for example, and we could just paste it here. Open it like that. I think that's the most important thing about the data handling, probably. Or do you,
Yes.
can you think of something else, Renne, at this point that we should show?
No, I think this is good for now, and
perhaps,
just
yeah,
for the purpose of keeping the agenda schedule, also we could move forward.
Yeah.
To service
Oh yeah, sorry,
development.
did I took too much time?
Well, we had some delay at the start as well, and so forth. But
now that I opened this, maybe
yes, sure.
Maybe if we don't look at this, I mean, well, this is how you can then view the image. But what I wanted to show here actually is that here you can see also all the data sets that you can access in Creodias, and you can access them in this QGIS for visual purposes or whatever processing. But the more important thing perhaps is that these are the data sets that are available there, so you can also access all of this through your services that you create. I'm not a technical expert at all, so probably Renne or Lauri may want to give you more details about this EO data folder, but anyway, this is an easy way to visualize what is there.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jukka. Lauri, are you ready to take over? I think we could jump straight to the developer features, and then when the time is right there, discuss this EO data and data access mechanisms while developing services. Is that how we should go, Lauri?
We can do so, yes.
Yeah. We planned that I would say a couple of words, but I will be very brief about when you create services, whose service it is. So whatever you do on the platform, it is basically yours at the start. You own the rights to the service, and any service is private by default, so it does not become like automatically part of the FTEP or part of FTEP offering. You can, as Jukka explained, you can create groups of users and you can share the service to that group. That's one thing that you can facilitate collaboration. Then if you want to go further, you can publish the service on the platform, and then it becomes available for all FTEP users. And if you want to have that as a commercial offering, then you can discuss with us about how to make that happen. And the services that you will see, for example, on the Explorer view on the second button on the left, the services list, those are the ones that you have access to. There are other services, and you will see those that you have been granted access. Right. I think that's enough to set the scene for the developer section. So please, Lauri, go on.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. Lauri Setson from VTT, and I'm probably the best point to contact when or if you have troubles with on the technical side, developing services and other that kind of questions. So when you start creating a service, click on the developer tab and the plus sign at the bottom. Then you need to give a name to your service. This is a bit cumbersome name. It's not allowed to contain any special characters or spaces. Then there's a more free-form title and an optional description, and you need to accept the terms and conditions, and then you just click create. Now the fastest way to get on with developing services is to take one already existing service as a base and then copy paste data. So you should be able to see, for example, this GDAL calc service inputs when you browse the developer tab. You're not allowed, you cannot modify that service, but you can copy code from that to your own service. So each service has a Docker file which describes the environment in which the service will be executed. So in practice, it's a cookbook for a Linux computer. You specify the baseline. I'm basically using Ubuntu 18 or 20.04 as baseline. Then we install all the programs we are going to need, make some local directories, and this copy command copies all these local files to the virtual machine. Then we can download binary data from external sources, for example, with the curl command. and we can install whatever we need for Python here. So this one wheel that we download is a wheel that we have developed to make it more easy to handle the service parameters when using Python as the implementation language. The second.
Can I say a couple of things, Lauri, about
Yes.
the Docker file? One is that when you create a new service, the system provides you a template. So you don't have to start from scratch. You can modify that template, or as Lauri mentioned, you can copy it from your preferred template from another service. That's one thing. And the other thing is that you could use the Docker file to download some static data set as well that would be used in the service. That's all I wanted to add.
Okay, so then the next important file is the workflow script, which is the starting point of the service when it's executed. And there is also the template, so most of this stuff comes from the template. Here I've added some debugging prints to show so that when you run the service, you can see what's the actual environment where it's executed. And now I've created this actual service contents in Python. So here I just call Python 3 to execute the script I've created with the inputs of the service. And afterwards, it copies the outputs of the script to the output directory of the service. And this is just regular Python code. We just created it in such a way that it gets an input directory, output directory, and a parameter file, which it reads and then calls gdal-calc in the end with this os.system call. And in addition to these files, each service requires some inputs. They are defined in the input definitions tab. The ID is the tag with which are in the parameter file the services get. Title and descriptions are for the user so that he or she knows what to fill. We have a data type, limitation option, and then the occurrence limits, so whether it's optional or mandatory. And as Jukka mentions for the vegetation indices, that it is possible to run parallel mode. So the service developer needs to specify it in the parameters whether that parameter is such that it can be used for parallel execution. Then, if the service produces some outputs, as normally they do, you define the tag and the occurrence counts. That's basically what's needed. And when the service gets its inputs, all the files are in a certain input directory. And within this input directory, each input parameter that is file-based inputs has a subdirectory with the name with the input ID, and the same goes with the outputs. They are to be placed in the output directory in a subdirectory which has the same name as the output ID. And when all the definitions files are ready, definitions are ready, the service needs to be built. There's a wrench icon, build container, click on that, and then it starts building. And with the refresh status icon, you can update the status, and if you want to monitor the logs, you can open the logs and refresh the log page. Then you can see what's happening within the build, and it hopefully ends with a successfully built and successfully tagged lines. And as the normal mode of use has been to search for input in the Explorer, drag the files to the service input fields, and then execute the service. But now we have also the option to access programmatically all the data that's available from CreaDIAS. And if you check this Mount Full EO data box, then the service has access to this EO data directory. So if you know what you need from there, you can read the data, all the data you need from there. For example, you could create a service which uses this CreaDIAS Finder API to search for certain data for certain area for certain time by using creating this kind of a call programmatically, and then you get a lot of JSON output, and from the returned items, they have a product identifier field or property, which is the name of the directory in this EO data branch. And if you want to explore how to create this kind of query, you can use this Finder user interface, and when you search for data here, it shows the actual query, and you can then copy that as a base and modify it in your program if you need. And then when you have this service you have developed and you would like to execute it as a workflow from some other environment, for example, your own application environment, you can do with the FTEP REST API, or then you can use, if you are using Python, we have a dedicated Python API to make it easier. And from the help desk page, we have the service developer guide here. That's a good starting point to browse through before starting. And then we have here documentation and the wheel for this Python API. And the API is quite straightforward.
Can I, Lauri, ask you to jump a bit back? I would like to say a couple of things about the service development before you explain the API access.
Sure.
That's okay. Can you please show the developer view again? So for this, in this GDAL example, you see these environment variables And one thing that is worth mentioning is that any user-given inputs for the service are available via this WPS props environment variable. So it's the fifth blue line there. So the script will receive via that single environment variable all the user-given inputs. And where Lauri has his mouse now,
actually, I'm not sourcing the properties file.
You are not sourcing, right? Okay.
Because I'm not using it in this bash environment. I just put the parameter file to this Python script.
You put all of the input there directly.
Yeah, so the Python part reads the input parameter file, which is a key value kind of file. Our utility wheel has some methods to help in that as well.
Yeah. Okay, but that's all I wanted to just add, that's the way the user-given input parameters get into the software logic.
Yeah, that's good. I forgot all these parameter file inputs altogether.
Okay, but then about the API.
Yeah, so if you are using Python, you can install our wheel in your environment. There was a download link on the manual page, and you just give your username and password, and then you can access the API methods. For example, if you want to launch a job, you create a dictionary which contains the inputs that are specified for the service. These are the ID tags of the service input parameters. And then we have a method to launch and wait for a job. And then there's a method to just launch a job and return immediately without waiting for it to finish. And this example runs the fetch station indices service and then prints the outputs that have been generated. So I hope this is quite straightforward. If not, you are always welcome to send us questions and we'll try to clarify things. But if you're not using Python, then you can use the REST API still, but it's perhaps a bit more complicated. So these Python API methods make some wrapping of the actual REST API calls. So I think I hopefully covered all the aspects I thought I would.
Okay, thank you, Lauri. There was a good deal of information. I'm sure all of it didn't reach all of you, but hopefully some of it reached most of you. But as Lauri mentioned, there's this written documentation available for service development and for platform operations and or platform access and use. And you are also welcome to point your questions to us so that we can help you in getting up to speed with your efforts. Do you, Jukka, have something to add, or then also does anyone at this point have questions?
No, I don't think I have anything special to add, but while people are thinking questions, I may want to highlight, still the fact that that Renne already mentioned, the different ways of using this. I mean, what we started first was to look how this platform looks from the user point of view. So if one way is to create a service, in which case you have to think about that aspect in a way. But then if you want to use it through just from your own machine as a part of your process, then very much it's just the background engine. You can use this Forestry TEP as the engine, and then it doesn't matter so much how the service would look like visually, or how easy it would be used in the graphical user interface.
Yes, exactly. I wanted to highlight the same aspect. So the FTEP user interface in one scenario, it would be only for the service developer, for the innovation challenge creators, but the actual users of your demo, your observers, your people who will be fascinated by your output, they would see your output, while FTEP provides processing capabilities underneath. So there's a lot of options. It might seem quite complex from the start, but if you think that satellite data can be an integral part of your solution, then it might be worth investigating, and we will be there to help you. Any questions now? I could share again this one slide about these usage scenarios just for background. Like this. So what we with Jukka were just discussing was this third scenario about accessing the service externally. So please feel free to give your questions, even if you think they would be very basic. Your question may concern just very generic points of view as well. Doesn't need to be about technical details.
Yeah, and of course, if there are no questions, I mean, this can be found somewhere on the hackathon website, I believe, this video, so you can always come back to this.
Sure. A couple of items that we did not really touch today that are even more advanced features of FTEP are like systematic processing that enables you to specify where the service, your developed service, would be operating, and then it would automatically pick some data that is useful, and the service could be run, for example, on a weekly basis automatically. There's that sort of features available as well. And we hope that the documentation for them is good enough on the website, but contact us if anything is unclear. Okay, if there are no questions at this point, then we thank you for your attention, and we'll be waiting for your feedback afterwards and your contacts.
Well, thank you. I think this was really interesting. And well, maybe a question. Well, the Finnish this statistical bureau has a lot of open source data. Have you been considering like integrating that data as well with this platform, with the maps and so forth? Thank you.
Right. We have like tens of directions we want to take the platform, and one of them certainly is that we would like to have more open data offered as part of the platform offering. I don't think we have considered this statistical data that you mentioned specifically, that could be interesting for many scenarios. But if you feel the need for that data in a particular service, then you could consider uploading it at this time.
Exactly. Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it so that even your service, you can write your service or the application so that at some point of the code it would get data from some external source, for example, this
I think so.
database.
Yes, it shouldn't be any problem.
Right. Yeah, I think with Lauri, I think we forgot to mention that during for example, the workflow.sh or the Python script, that can make data retrieval from external sources. Yes. So multiple opportunities there for you to consider, and please get back to us with questions. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thanks and bye.
Bye.